Hi, I'm here today talking with Catherine, the founder and owner of Spirit Quest in Sedona, Arizona. And we were talking about the mentor-mentee relationship earlier, and we were also talking about at some point in a mentee's life, there may be a desire to go and begin their own business. And we were talking about the endings and how often they can occur, and how they occur, what it means to end the mentor-mentee relationship and integrity, in right action. And I know you have been a mentor to others within the spiritual community and within the retreat community as well. And I wanted to ask you, Catherine, what are, in your view, the responsibilities of the mentee?
Yeah, I mean, that's a relationship, mentee, mentor. And so when we have that relationship, we tend to have, it could be anything from contracts you have, it could be a non-compete, it could be non-disclosure, it could be, but I would say clear understandings, clear agreements. You also, if you have a mentor, you have a personal relationship with them. Some would even say a friendship, gets a lot of friendships get formed. Um, but it's a learning experience. That's what's going on there. As you're sharing your life's work, you're sharing your hard work with somebody else, and you're building trust. You have trust with them that you'll happily, share this information. Maybe they're helping you out. They're working in your business and they're active in it. So where the real problem comes into play sometimes is when the mentee feels the need and the want and the desire to branch out and do their own thing. So that's really what we're zeroing in on, is the right way to manage that, where it doesn't completely damage and destroy friendships, relationships. It doesn't, because if it's not handled in the right way, it will feel like a betrayal, like a stab in the back, because there wasn't good communication, there wasn't right action, there was a violation of contracts, there was a violation of the things that were understood and promised. And this can be feel terrible, and it can be very destructive. So I really love, and then it forms this competitor kind of feeling between, if that person goes and starts their own business, and it could have been handled a completely different way, in a way that's way more symbiotic and way more kind and preserves that relationship. And that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and typically when we're thinking about the mentee relationship, a lot of times the mentees tend to be young people in their 20s and 30s, and
Mm-hmm.
are very different times in their life. Where when we're in our 30s, we're really looking to build our empire. We may want to run a business, or we may want to be the one that's out leading the charge, and we have to resign ourselves to fall back, to become and to know what it's like to be a good follower, to be able to communicate with our mentor about how we're feeling. I think as a mentee and as a former mentee, um, when we're in our 20s and 30s and we're building this life for ourselves, and we want more, we want to accumulate, we want bigger houses, more cars, etc., etc. We want those things in our life, or we want to be the one in charge because we think, maybe as a mentee sometimes, we think that we can do the job better, or we can go and get what it is that we want. Whether it is the bigger house or the car, or even to pay our bills, because life can be really challenging, that we can fool ourselves as mentees. And we can tell ourselves this story about and justify
Mm-hmm.
our actions, and really hold grudges or resentments if we're not getting what we think is our fair share of money or appreciation or anything along those lines. So we begin to tell ourselves that story to justify how we're going to exit. And that's a very slippery slope when that happens. Because once that mentee decides that they're going to go off and start their own business, once they decide that, they can take one of two ways. They can communicate that with their mentor, who can then empower them and support them and taking that next step along their professional journey, or they can do it very sneakily and unhandedly, a lot of times stealing material and operating in a way that is without integrity,
stealing the life work of somebody,
is without honor,
stealing their operations, stealing, copying, instead, and really even stopping their your own creativity to take that which you learned from your mentor and then make it your own. Create your own names of things, create your own programs. Maybe something was shared with you, but then you work with it and you create your own. In this case, copying is not the best form of flattery. It's not flattery. It feels very, very violating, unless someone has actually given permission. I would say in that mentor-mentee relationship, honoring that relationship takes precedence over what you can get from them and where you can go and all of that. It's like if you maintain in that honor this person that taught you and shared these things with you, and you maintain that relationship, and you sit down and you communicate and you say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'd like to do, I'd like to start my own, I'd like to branch off, you have any pointers for me? And you just communicate. There's transparency. This is really treating the other person with respect, giving them a heads up that this is what you'd like to do or intend to do, getting their feedback. Their feedback might be very valuable, and you might go, oh, I was thinking of doing it this way, but I think I might kind of move it into that direction. Or both of you, it becomes a symbiotic relationship where that mentor can continue to support you and continue to mentor you in some way, perhaps, is a much better way, where, especially in a small community, where now we're all joining together and there's even more to give in that industry and even more to offer, and there's a uniqueness in the offerings of the different people, rather than just stealing somebody's business model, their systems, their names of things, the names of their files, their people, their contact lists, things like that, is so out of integrity, and will eventually, I believe, come back in a karmic path of destruction.
Well, and to me, that karmic path and that destruction has to do with achieving your highest human potential. When I think of the mentor-mentee relationship, and I know that a lot of mentees are really wanting to blossom, they really want to bear fruit, they really want to grow and to become their greatest human potential. And so as a mentee, I think of how important it is to trust that process, to trust that if it's in the cards for me, that it's more important for me to honor that relationship and to move forward into that relationship than it is for me to cut that relationship short. Because we know, when we think about a plant, anytime a plant is harvested, and each of us being plants, I guess, if you metaphorically would think of us as plants, when we're cut before our time, we don't bear the same fruit. And if we decide that we're going to cut our own stalk and harvest our own fruits, it will never be as much as if we were to see our relationship through with our mentor through to completion, and bringing that out in an open forum, in a communication where there's honesty and transparency, to where that mentor, it's quite possible, says, Godspeed to you. I wish you nothing but the best. I'm your friend. We're not burning bridges here. I can support you as you step out onto your own. I can support you, which honors that relationship, and which then enables, quite honestly, that mentee to bear fruit, and to not limit their human potential, because they've honored that relationship. And when that relationship is honored, now that stalk of wheat or corn can really come to its full and sweetest potential. And when that ripens, and it comes about in a harmonious and natural way with clear communication, clear agreements, it has the potential to bear as much fruit as anything. But when the mentee decides they're going to stop the relationship, jump off on their own, burn their bridges, they limit their human potential. They limit their human potential and they limit their own creativity. And it becomes an adversarial
The
relationship.
person who does that usually ends up with a pattern of burning bridges. If they really start looking at their own lives, they probably have burnt bridges many, many times down the road with many relationships. It's a very dysfunctional way of proceeding rather than, the way we treat our bosses, the way we treat our mentors, the way we treat people around us is going to be the way we interact with people at home, our mates, our children. Are we transparent? Do we have clear agreements? Do we honor each other? Do we communicate? Do we ask permission? Or do we just lie and steal and stab in the back? And so it really tells a lot about us as a human being and a person in all aspects of our lives. And yeah, we might get ahead in business by lying, cheating, stealing, but eventually that will not feel good. Eventually that will deteriorate our own sense of self and our own sense of our soul, because it's living a life out of integrity.
Yeah. So if you're a mentee, understand that mentors have decided to work with you, have looked at you and thought about you as if you are someone that is capable, that they could teach to eventually run the business for them.
And they're well aware
And
that one day you might.
And they're well aware.
You have a chance of either stabbing them in the back and just burning that bridge and destroying that relationship, or
selling the company eventually in some type of a working arrangement.
That person might want to sell you the business even.
It absolutely is possible. Yep.
You can work together, creative ideas of maybe birth something together. I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit. But the wrong way to approach it is just to grab everything and run and
to justify
make it all about yourself and all about just the money.
If you're a mentee and you're currently involved in shenanigans, stealing from your mentor, stop it. Stop it now and make amends and decide to get back on the path of right action, living with integrity and honor. And if you're feeling unappreciated or underpaid, go have a conversation with your mentor.
Yeah. And stop trying to justify your actions, because wrong action cannot be justified to fix another supposed wrong action.
Right.
That's not the way it works.
It doesn't work that way. No.
Yeah, so we're all about being transparent, being truthful, honoring the other, creating and feeling good about your own creation, drawing from other people's work. That's great. But creating your own path, your own life in an integral way, huh?
Integrity, right action, and being honorable when we're talking about endings.
Because one day you might be the mentor.